Hello everyone and welcome to the channel. My name is Granny Gamer and today we're going to be checking out a new demo called Homicide Judge. Yeah, I'm not real sure about this one. I'm not really sure if I'm a good judge for anybody, but it says you're the new judge in the dusty old town of Dry Gulch. And let me tell you, there's only one kind of case on your docket. Homicide. Prove you're the sharpest gavel in the West, deciding farcical homicide cases inspired by landmark rulings and bar exam questions. Dry Gulch is waiting on you, Judge. All right, so this was released, I think, full version on November 3rd, but this is the demo. It was the developer is Sean Hirsch, I think it is, Esquire. So let's just get in and let's just see what the demo's all about. And then maybe, we'll talk about possibly going in and playing the full version. And hey, guys, we are almost up to 50 subscribers. If you guys could jump in and hit that subscribe button and really help me out, I'm trying to make my first goal, and that's 50 subscribers, and then we'll set another one after that, but we're 3 away. So if you could jump in and do that for me and support the channel, I'd really appreciate it. Now let's get in and play this demo. Alright, so the cross. Here case. Alright, so I've never played this game before, so this is going to be interesting, okay? Let's see. Click to see testimony and evidence, then render your verdict. All right, so we got this lady. Says, well, Your Honor, my name is Sally McGill, and I run a Dusty Spur Salon. Now, most nights, I'm behind the bar serving drinks and keeping an eye on things. Last Saturday night was a real doozy, let me tell you. This fella came in. I'd seen him the night before. Tall, lanky, wore a black trench coat both nights, and Lord forgive me, crossed eyes, something fierce. Looked like he could stare at the sun and the moon at the same time. He was a stranger to these parts, but the night before I'd seen him in the alley with old Tucker Fuddrucker, a regular around these parts. Okay, let's just move on. I'm sorry, I'm gonna laugh at old Tim's name there for a second. Anyway, Saturday comes around, and this cross-eyed stranger waltzes in again. I noticed him right off because you don't forget eyes like that. No, sir. Without saying a word, he pulls a six-shooter right there in the middle of my salon, just as casual as ordering a whiskey. Points it over at Tim and his business partner, Clyde Clemens. Now, Clyde's about as wide as a barrel and twice as ornery, so I figured if anyone could handle trouble, it'd be him. But this feller, he fires off 2 shots, missing them both. Like I said, his aim was about as good as a one-legged man in a hopping contest. On the third shot, though, he hit poor Tim square in the chest. Tim goes down and says to the feller who shot him, "Not me, you idiot," which I thought was odd. Clyde, he jumps up fast and then jackrabbits on a hot skillet and pulls his own pistol. First shot goes wild and he hits Dottie Mae Pickles, one of my regulars. Poor Dottie was just minding her own business over by the piano, drinking her sarsaparilla. The next thing you know, she's keeled over dead. Then the tall, cross-eyed fellow fighter at Clyde again, missed him again. Clyde's second shot hit him through and through, right in the cross-eyed fellow's chest, dropped him like a sack of potatoes. That's all I know, Judge. The whole thing happened so fast than a jackrabbit's honeymoon. Okay. All right, so I wonder who this guy is. Well, Judge, my name's Pat Biggs, and I was sitting at the far end of the bar that Saturday just enjoying my whiskey like I do most nights. Dusty Spur's my usual spot, and I ain't one to miss much, so I seen the whole thing play out clearly as day. This stranger rolls in, tall, skinny fellow with a black trench coat. Anyway, this stranger, well, he had the kind of eyes that make you dizzy just looking at him, cross-eyed, something fierce. So there I am, minding my own business, when this fellow walks in and pulls out his six-shooter, faster than you can say possum pie. Didn't say a word, just starts firing at Tim Fuddrucker and his partner, Big Clyde Clemens, who's sitting right there with him. Not sure who he was shooting at, but he was pointing the gun at their table for sure. First two shots, well, he missed by a country mile. I mean, them bullets went flying past like they had no idea where they was heading. On the third shot, though, he hit Tim square in the chest. I was down on the floor by that point, but still watching from my belly. Tim staggers and says something like, "Not me, you idiot." Big Clyde, being the bulldog he is, jumps up, pulls his own iron. Now, Big Clyde ain't no stranger to a shootout, but his first shot must have been aimed by a blind squirrel, 'cause it went wide and hit poor Dottie Mae Pickles. She was just sitting in there enjoying a quiet drink, minding her own business. Never seen a lady go down so fast in all my life, God rest her soul. Then the cross-eyed stranger, he fires again, hits nothing again, but Big Clyde's second shot was, though he wasn't messing around. Got that cross-eyed stranger right in the chest, dropped him faster than Grease Hog at a county fair. Oh my goodness. All right, so we got this guy. Good morning, Judge. It is with the most utmost gravity that I, Dr. Belvedere Benedictus Bones, M.D., do present my findings. Been patching up folks and pronouncing them dead here in Dry Gulch for 30 years now. On the day in question, I was summoned to the scene, yet another shooting. There were 3 victims laid out in old Dusty Spur's saloon that day. Upon my arrival at the scene, as poor Miss Dottie Mae Pickles, she was shot right through the heart while drinking a sarsaparilla. I have absolutely no doubt that this was the cause of her ultimately demise, Your Honor. All right, well, what about the other 2? Okay, so let's see what we got here. Good morning, Judge. Sheriff Clem Tumbleweed here. Okay. Full name is Clementine, just for the record. Okay, that clears up a few things. Folks elected me sheriff on account of how I'm faster than old Bill Hickory drawing iron, and more accurate than Annie Oakley shooting skeet. Not bragging, just stating facts, Your Honor. I'll tell you what happened as straight as a cactus grows. After the shootout at the Dusty Spur, I did my investigation. I got warrants to search the homes of Clemens and Fuddrucker. Oh my God, that just makes me laugh so hard every time I say it. I figured there might be something there to tell us what really happened. Sure enough, we found a diary tucked away in a drawer in Fuddrucker's bedroom, along with some other personal effects. The diary, well, let's just say it had some interesting entries that I reckon might shed some light on this whole mess. Now, Judge, most of the combatants are dead, but I told Big Clyde Clemens that even though he had the right to shoot that stranger, he had no right to shoot poor Dottie Mae Pickles, even if it wasn't on purpose. Told him he might be manslaughter. The court would have to sort it out. That's true. It might be. So, let's see what we got here. August 12th, I reckon my luck's run dry. Then at Desert Creek, Big Clyde Clemens, of all folks, figured out what I've been doing with them funds. How'd he catch on? I kept it quiet, siphoning just a little bit off the top here and there from the business, no harm done, just a bit of retirement savings, I thought. But now Clem's leaning on me something fierce. He's demanding I pay up for the full amount, and he's taking it straight to the sheriff. August 15. Clyde won't back down. Says if I don't bring him every last cent by Saturday, he's handing me over to the law. He's big as a grizzly and meaner than a rattler after you've stepped on its tail. Ain't no talking him out of this. I'm left with no choice. I can't go to jail, not with all I've worked for. I got one shot at fixing this mess, but I ain't proud of it. Hired myself a fella today, met him through a fellow down by the rail yard. A cross-eyed son of a gun named Cross-eyed Pete. His eyes don't quite agree on where they're looking, but they say he gets the job done. Told them just to walk in and shoot Bill during our meeting, then run out. I just pray he can see straight enough to hit Clyde and not shoot up half the town in the process. Well, he killed you. Alright, so that's that. So then we got this. Judges know. I'll study the case and render my homicide verdict in the morning. People versus Matthew. If the act of taking the life of an assailant is not criminal, does it become so when a stray shot kills a bystander? It has been long accepted that if A shoots at B, intending to kill B, but instead strikes a strikes C, then A has committed a criminal act as to C. In such instance, the malice follows the blow, and the criminal intent of A to harm B is transferred to C. However, if A had no criminal intent with respect to B, as where A is exercising the lawful right to self-defense, none could exist as to C. The inquiry must be whether the killing would have been justifiable if the accused had killed the person whom he intended to kill. As the unintended act derives its character from the intended, we conclude that the doctrine of self-defense is available to insulate one from criminal responsibility where his act, justifiably in self-defense, inadvertently results in the injury of an innocent bystander. All right, so let's look at the law, though. Okay, so let's see. A homicide is first-degree murder, an unlawful, premeditated, deliberate killing of another person, which he obviously didn't do. Second-degree murder, an unlawful, intentional killing of another person without deliberation or premeditation, or an unlawful killing of another person with the intent to cause great bodily harm or injury. So none of these are all intentional. So let's go to voluntary manslaughter. An unlawful, intentional killing. Okay, this says intentional also. So involuntary manslaughter. An unlawful killing of a person due to criminal negligence conduct that demonstrates a disregard for the safety of others. An unlawful killing of a person during the commission of an inherently dangerous misdemeanor. So, if anything, it's going to be, I imagine, because these all say intentional. An unlawful, intentional killing of another person without deliberation, premeditation, or malice, for example, while in the heat of passion in response to adequate provocation. So, I'm thinking it's still going to be. Yeah, I think it's going to be this. All right, let's go back. So let's deliver the oh my gosh. So I'm going to go with this. Uh-oh, your judicial reputation heads south based on the rule of law, People versus Matthew, and the testimony provided. Defendant Big Clyde Clemens could become found not guilty. The cross-eyed contract killer Big Clyde's first shot was accidentally killed and fired okay. Okay. So evidently, because he was in self-defense mode, he was okay. All right, well, let's try the next case. All right. Fisticuffs at the old fishing hole. Oh, boy. So we got a little boy here. Well, Your Honor, I reckon I ought to start by introducing myself. Name's Willie Whippoorwill, and I just turned 15 this month. Now, last Thursday, me and my best pal, Catfish Carter, decided to wet our lines down at the Primo fishing hole on the Dry Gulch River. We were just minding our own business, hoping to land us some whoppers, when we heard some familiar voices coming our way. Quicker'n a prairie dog down on a hole, we skedaddled into the bushes, you see. Those voices belonged to two ornery cusses we try to steer clear of. Rufus Rutherford, now that's a tongue twister, isn't it? And one-eyed Ivan Akers. They consider that fishing hole their own personal spot. Told me and Catfish they'd make us pay if they caught us there again. Now, Your Honor, me and Catfish found ourselves stuck there like two fleas in a sleeping hound dog. We couldn't hightail it out of there without being seen, so we hunkered down in the brush and kept our trap shut. Them two varmints, they started jawing about who could catch the biggest fish and making a bet and all. They was drinking and fishing for hours, pulling in more fish than you could shake a stick at. One-eyed Ivan was bragging up a storm about his fancy fishing lure, catching near about twice as many as Rufus, including a real barn door of a catfish. When it came time to settle up, Rufus started acting like a mule with a blur under his saddle. He claimed his fish was the biggest, even though any fool with one good eye could see it weren't. They got madder than two wet hens, and Rufus went and pushed Ivan. Ivan shoved him right back, and quicker than you can say lickety-split, Rufus threw a haymaker. It turned into a real knock-down, drag-out fight, Your Honor, but then, well, I saw something that near turned my insides to water. Rufus, he held Ivan's head under water and down drowned one-eyed Ivan right there in the shallows. I couldn't believe my peepers. After that, Rufus looked round all shifty-like, then started throwing Ivan's belongings into the drink. But he paused when he got to that fancy lure of Ivan's, muttered something about not going to waste, and stuffed it in his own tackle box quick as a wink. Soon as Rufus moseyed out there, me and Catfish lit out like our britches was on fire, running straight to the Sheriff Clem Tumbleweed to tell her what had happened and what we done saw. Okay, so this is the other kid. Howdy there, Your Honor. I promise to tell the truth. I suppose I ought to introduce myself proper. My name's Catfish Carter, and I'm the same age as my buddy Wiley. Just turned 15 last month. Now, I ain't one for fancy talk, so I'll give it to you straight as a lizard tail. That fateful Thursday, me and old Wiley decided to try our luck down at the best fishing spot the side of Mississippi. We call it the Whopper Hole on account of the size of the fish you can pull out of it. We was just getting settled, hoping to land us a catch big enough to make our mamas proud when we heard them two troublemakers coming. Now, Your Honor, when we heard Ruthless Rufus and One-Eyed Ivan yapping away, we hightailed it into the bushes faster than a jackrabbit with its tail on fire. Last time they caught us there, they threatened to tan our hides something fierce. So we stuck there, quiet as a church mice, praying they wouldn't spot us. Them two started carrying on about who could catch the biggest fish. One-eyed Ivan was strutting around like a rooster in a henhouse, showing off his fancy lure. It was shinier than a new penny, I tell you. There was drinking more than fishing at first, but once they got to it, Ivan was pulling in fish left and right. Hours went by, and I swear my backside was number than a wooden leg, but we didn't dare move a muscle. When it came time to settle their bet, Ruthless Rufus started acting squirrelier than a chipmunk at a nut festival. He was insisting his fish was bigger, even though Ivan's catch could have swallowed Rufus's whole, and still had room for dessert. Things got ugly faster than you could say cattle rustlers. Rufus pushed Ivan pushed back, and before you knew it, they was going at it like two tomcats in a gunny sack. I was shaking like a leaf in a tornado. Your Honor, then, well, I saw something that made my blood run colder than a well-dicker's posterior. Ruthless Rufus, that's such a tongue twister. He drowned One-Eyed Ivan right there in front of us. Held his head under till he done stopped moving. After the deed was done, Rufus started throwing Ivan's things in the river, acting all suspicious like. But when he got to that fancy lure, he hesitated, said something about being too good to waste, and pocketed it as quick as a hiccup. Oh boy. So this must be the lure. This lure former owner is fishing in the river Styx these days. We marked it down and put it in as evidence as exhibit. Okay. So now we got this guy. Good morning, Judge. It is with the utmost gravity that I, Dr. Belvedere Benedictus Bones, M.D., do present my findings. Been patching up folks in this town longer than most folks been alive. And when I ain't patching, well, I'm the one confirmation. They ain't patchable no more. When Sheriff Tumbleweed brought in One-Eyed Ivan's mortal remains, I done my duty and gave him once over. Deader than Marley's ghost he was. Cause of death? Well, it don't take a genius with a magnifying glass to figure that one out. Ivan's lungs was full of river water. He had more bruises than a fellow fallen apple in a hailstorm. Clear as day someone held him under till his last breath. 'Tweren't no accident, neither. Them marks on his neck tell a tale darker than Edgar Allan Poe on a moonless night. In my professional opinion, Your Honor, One-Eyed Ivan's journey to the other side weren't no willin' trip. He was sent there by force, sure as charin buries the dead. Okay, well, I'm not familiar with that one, but okay. All right, so we got the sheriff. My name's Sheriff Clementine Tumbleweed. I done promised to tell the truth, and that's what I aim to do. It was round sundown last Thursday when them two youngsters, Wiley and Catfish, came tearing into my office like their britches were ablaze. They was splitting out a tail wider than a bucking bronco about a murder down at the fishing hole. Now, I've known them boys since they was knee-high to a grasshopper, and they ain't never been the type to spin yarns, so I knew something was amiss. I saddled up quicker than you can say hot dang and rode out to the Dry Gulch River. By the time I got there, the sun was sinking faster than a lead weight in quicksand. I searched up and down the riverbank, and sure enough, I spotted something floating in the water, bumping up against the rocks down a ways downstream. It was one-eyed Ivan, Your Honor, as dead as last year's Christmas turkey. The poor fellow had clearly taken his last swim, if you catch my drift. Now, knowing what them boys told me, I got a search warrant and then moseyed over to Rufus's place, found him sitting on a porch, cool as a cucumber. But when I started asking questions, he got jumpier than a long-tailed cat in a room full of rocking chairs. I found and searched his tackle box, and sure as shooting, there was one-eyed Ivan's prize lure sitting pretty as you please. That's when I knew them boys' story was straight as an arrow. I snapped the cuffs on Rufus and told him flat out, son, you gone and done it now. You killed one-eyed Ivan and took his belongings. That's their robbery and murder. Plain as the nose on your face. He started squawking and carrying on saying he won the lure in a bet fair and square. Claimed he haven't even seen Ivan in a week, but I wasn't having none of it. Brought him in and locked him up tighter than a drum. All right, dearie, you did your job. All right, so this is the judge's notes. I'll study the precedent and render my homicide verdict in the morning. State versus Comer. When Appellant and Willis arrived at the Brunt Corral, they had no money and were nearly out of food. Appellant invite Larry Pritchard, who was camping nearby, to the diner at the appellant's campsite. Okay, well. Okay, this is a whole different one, right? State versus Opus. In this case, okay, this is giving me precedence. Oh, my bad. Who was camping nearby to the dinner at the Appellant's campsite. Pritchard was a large man who walked with considerable difficulty after dinner. Appellant told Willis, I'm going to blow him away. Appellant shot Pritchard in the head following the shooting. Appellant forced Willis to look at the body and said, see what I've done? I'm a cold, callous killer. Evidence also indicates that the appellant went through Pritchard's pockets sometime after the shooting. Robbery requires the coexistence of an intent to commit a robbery with the use of force. If a murder is committed with no intent to commit a robbery, it is still murder, but is not armed robbery. If a theft is conceived of and executed after a murder, it is a theft, but not as an armed robbery. The evidence clearly supports the inference that appellant formulated the intent to take Pritchard's property before or after. All right, in this case, after death of Suarez, the defendant and his brother took the billfold to attempt to prevent or delay identification of the body and to destroy the evidence. Nothing supports a finding that they had the intent to commit a robbery while they were using force against Suarez. Defendant's motion for acquittal on the felony charges theory should similarly have been granted because there was no predicate felony for armed robbery. All right. So the law says robbery. Robbery is the unlawful larceny of a personal property of yet another through force or fear. So let's see. He's definitely unlawful killing of another person without deliberation or premeditation. I think it's going to be the second degree murder here. And I do think it's theft, but I don't think it's robbery. So I think it's going to be I think it's going to be the unlawful intentional killing of a person, but without deliberation or meditation. So I think it's going to be second. Wait a minute. This says unlawful intentional killing of another person while without deliberation, premeditation, or malice. For example, while in the heat of passion in response to provocate. Yeah, yeah, that thing. So voluntary manslaughter, maybe. Let's go back. So let's deliver the verdict. So I think it's voluntary manslaughter. Let's do it. Oh my God, I can't get it. All right, let's do the next case. Let's hear this one. I can't seem to get it right. All right, so basically, in Her Majesty's office, I nurse Sir First Grace Luke Leopold Alistair Manafort of West Haven as a captain of his personal guard. 2 weeks ago, the Duke brought me here to tour the American West, which he finds rather charming for reasons beyond me. Shortly thereafter, he fell in love with a local commoner and married her. Brought her what I suppose passes for a grand estate in this wilderness, if you call it country. In any case, my Duke had attended to business in Europe before he left. He made promises. He made me promises to protect the estate of his new bride. That evening, as I made my rounds with my men, I heard noises outside the window of the new Duchess. Strange, given the hour, well past midnight. Naturally, I investigated. To my surprise, I saw a figure climbing a tall ladder towards the bedroom window. As I approached with gun drawn, she reached the top of the ladder and began fiddling with the window. At first, I thought it was intruders, so I yelled, "Stop or I'll shoot." But as she turned to face me, I realized it was Duke's new bride herself, or so I thought. "Duchess," I said, "what in the world are you doing? I could have shot you." She seemed startled and mumbled something about getting locked out. I asked her to come down before she hurts herself, but before I could even finish, she lost her footing and fell. One of my guards, Mr. Rollins, was directly beneath her. She landed square on him, and his neck snapped instantly. Rollins died on the spot. She, on the other hand, didn't have so much as a bruise, a bloody shock, Your Honor. Just as I was checking on Rollins, Duchess Sally comes out of the house. She told me the intruder was her identical twin sister named Sammy. She also said she was not on speaking terms with her sister due to a falling out. Now that made me rather suspicious of the sister trying to climb in that window, so I had my man go fetch the police officer and a doctor. Okay. All right. Good day, Your Honor. I'm Arthur Hargrove. I'm a guard assigned to protect the Duke and his family. I do swear to tell the truth. On the night in question, I was on guard duty. I heard the captain of the guard yelling like he had seen a ghost, so I rushed over. I saw the intruder, the defendant, seated right here in the court on a tall ladder. At that time, I thought it was the Duchess, as she was very spitting image of the lady of the house. She stumbled and fell off, and I managed to break Mrs. Rowland's and managed to break Mr. Rowland's neck in the process. Remarkable, really. Duchess Sally came out of the house, and at that point asking about all the commotions, and we were quite confused, Judge. "What in tarnation are you doing here, sis?" Duchess Sally said. We then discovered she wasn't the new Duchess Sally, but in fact her twin sister Sammy. One might say it was a rather dramatic way to introduce herself to the Duke's household. I was ordered to ride out and notify the sheriff, and finding the town doctor, I executed order, Your Honor. All right, so, good morning, Judge. It's with my utmost gravity that I, Salvador Benedictus Bones, MD, do present my fine. It's been patching up folks in a year, 30 years now. One night in question, I summoned to the scene. I examined the decent Mr. Rowlands. I could tell immediately there was nothing I could do for the poor fellow. A rather unusual case. The weight of the defendant's fall from the ladder appears to have snapped the poor man's neck. The cause of death was fairly easy to deduce. In this case, there was a fracture of the cervical vertebrae, Your Honor. All right, let's see what the sheriff says to say. I done promised to tell the truth, and that's what I aim to do. I went out to the residence of Miss Samantha Snodgrass to investigate after the death. I done known them twins Sammy and Sally since we were all kids. Sally was always a sweetheart. I reckon I won't say nothing about how Sammy was. Anyway, I had a search warrant with me, sworn by Your Honor. I located a diary in the bedroom. Defendant tried to stop me from taking it, saying I had no right to read her diary. But I'll explain about the search. Well, after reading the diary and interviewing everybody, I placed Miss Sammy Snodgrass under arrest. That's about it for me, Judge. All right, so is this the diary? No. Is this the diary? Okay. September 3rd, Dear Diary, it ain't fair. Shelly getting to live in that big mansion and marry the Duke while I get nothing. She didn't even invite me to her fancy wedding. I hate her. She always gets everything she wants. September 10th, Dear Diary, the Duke done gone back to Europe. He hardly knows Sally. She's staying there all by herself, and a plan done come into my head, or my mind. Dear Diary, got a tall ladder. Gonna sneak into Sally's bedroom and smother her while she's sleeping. Steal that fancy wedding ring and put it on my finger. Then bury her outside and take her place. That stupid Duke won't even know the difference. He hardly knows her, and I'll get all the fancy things I deserve. Oh boy, she's not a nice sister at all, is she? So this was me. If in your perpetration of or attempt to perpetrate arson, robbery, or burglary, shall you take the life of a fellow being intentionally or unintentionally, your crime is murder of the first degree. Okay. The killing may be willful, deliberate, or premeditated, or it may be absolutely accidental. In either case, you are equally guilty. The malice of the abandoned and malignant heart is shown from the very nature of the crime you are attempting to commit. Therefore, if in perpetrating arson, although in the belief that the building is unoccupied, some person within the building unknown to you shall lose his life, you are guilty of murder in the first degree. Or if in a burglarious entering premises which you believe to be unoccupied, you shall accidentally take the life of one whose presence is unsuspected by you, your crime is first degree murder. So I'm thinking this is going to be definitely first degree murder. So yeah, let's just do it. So we're doing first degree murder, okay? First degree murder. Oh yes, yes, I got it right. Your reputation as a learned judge is known to all. The defendant, Sammy Snodgrass, intended to break into and enter the house and smother her twin sister, Sally, as she lay sleeping. She also intended larceny, robbery of her sister's wedding ring so that she could pose for her sister. Okay, so we got that one right anyway. So next case. I wonder how many cases there are. I actually don't think I'm going to do this next case, guys. You kind of get the idea what this is all about. Alright guys, we're going to end this episode here. I do appreciate watching. I hope you enjoyed this episode. And please, 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 please support the channel. We need 3 more just to hit our first goal of 50. I would really appreciate all your help. As always, if you want to suggest any games we try and check out, I'd appreciate that too. Again, thanks for watching, and don't forget to come back and see me sometime, you hear? This is Granny Gamer, and have a great day.